Buried beneath the highway was a 5,000-year-old city so massive, researchers compared it to an ancient New York. Another road project dug up an entire Roman town that had completely vanished from history, and construction crews also came across a forgotten indigenous village beneath downtown Miami. These construction crews uncovered things no historical records mention. Part 2. Back when crews started digging up dirt to widen Highway 1 near Jerusalem, nobody expected much. It was supposed to be a basic road job, but before any heavy equipment could pour new asphalt near Motza Junction, a team of archaeologists had to go in and check the dirt. That routine walkthrough turned into a massive find. Understatement of the year, because the team bumped straight into a giant 9,000-year-old city from the Stone Age. As they scraped away the dirt, they kept finding more and more of it. There were stone houses with smooth plaster floors, tight alleys running between buildings, and big storage spaces packed with leftover food. They dug up thousands of arrowheads, stone tools, decorative items like beads and animal bones. So what was this place? Some kind of a campsite where a few travelers put up tents for the winter? Nope, it's actually a huge town covering acres of land, holding a massive community that lived there year-round. Modern farm fields and dirt tracks had hidden the whole place for thousands of years. There wasn't a single old book or map that said a city was sitting under the dirt. If that highway project hadn't been planned, that entire town would still be lost underground. It's often said that driving through Gloucestershire, the A417 can be a real pain for traffic. The government finally decided to fix a dangerous stretch known as the missing link. They brought in diggers to prep the route, but because the new road was cutting right through old farmland, archaeologists stepped in first to see what was underneath. Right alongside an old Roman road called Ermine Street, their shovels hit something really big. Turned out the dirt was filled with the stone bases of dozens of ancient buildings stretching out across nearly 20 acres. There was an entire Roman town that had vanished from history. The dig turned up houses, water wells, cooking ovens, workshops, and storage yards. Teams pulled out over 400 Roman coins, nearly 1,000 pounds of broken pottery, old jewelry, metal tools, and animal bones. For hundreds of years, this spot was a busy pit stop for travelers heading down the Roman road, but over time, the town rotted away, grass grew over it, and everyone forgot it existed. Road expansion gave scientists this tiny window of time to map out the ruins and save the artifacts before the new highway was built right on top of them. Before builders could put up new structures in the small town of Heimberg, Switzerland, they had to bring in an archaeology crew to survey the ground. Everyone involved thought it was going to be a quick, kind of boring job. Based on other discoveries in the area, the team figured they might find a couple Roman coins, but then call it a day. But you already know that wasn't the case, because I wouldn't be telling the story if it was. Once they cleared away the top layer of grass, they started hitting strange pits that didn't look Roman at all. They were actually standing on top of a village from the Middle Bronze Age, built somewhere between 1500 and 1200 BCE. The team found dark circles in the dirt where wooden house posts used to sit, along with old fire pits, broken pots, and tools, all of it used over 3,000 years ago. Completely flipped the project upside down. Instead of adding another tiny piece to the Roman timeline, we're suddenly staring at a community that lived there long before Switzerland was even a country. The village didn't leave behind a single written record either, so nobody had any idea this place existed until it was right in front of their faces. Miami is usually all about shiny glass towers, loud traffic, non-stop real estate construction, but in 2023, a construction project near Brickell Avenue in the Miami River ran into something kind of unexpected. Right under the modern concrete, workers hit a massive ancient indigenous village and burial ground. When scientists tested the items buried in the soil, some of them turned out to be 7,000 years old. And they found a lot: ancient fire pits, clay pots, carved shells, and animal bones left over from old meals. They also found human graves, and layers of earth showed that families had been living on this exact riverbank, cooking meals, making tools, and burying their loved ones for thousands of years. Some of the higher, newer layers belonged to the Tequesta tribe, who were living along the river when European settlers arrived, but the deepest stuff in the dirt was thousands of years older than that. There's no sign on the surface either that a massive burial site was hiding down there. The modern city had just paved right over it. You'd never think a new prison project would lead to a major historical discovery, but that's exactly what happened in Inverness, Scotland. Before work could start on a new facility called HMP Highland, a team of archaeologists went to inspect the property. To anyone driving by, it just looked like this plain, empty green field, but as soon as the diggers started peeling back the grass, he noticed dark, perfectly round spots stamped into the dirt. Those dark spots were post holes. The rotted out footprints were heavy wooden logs were pushed into the ground thousands of years ago to hold up big roundhouses. The team had come across an ancient village built about 2,000 years before, with some items going back as far as 3000 BCE. Even though the wooden houses had rotted away, of course, the marks in the soil let the team map out where every single building would have stood. They also found old trash pits packed with charcoal food waste and stone tools that showed families had lived and worked on that hill for generations. To build Britain's massive HS2 high-speed train network, workers had to dig giant trenches through miles of open countryside. Because the tracks crossed so much land, archaeological teams were assigned to walk ahead of the heavy machines to check the dirt before any train lines were laid down. When a team got near the tiny village of Fleet Marston, they hit something huge. Right next to an old Roman road, found the remains of a busy Roman town, complete with houses, workshops, water wells, spaces where people would have made goods to sell. They pulled thousands of everyday items out of the ground too, like coins, glass cups, pottery, brooches, and then things got a bit strange and unsettling. So right next to this newly discovered ancient town, they found a massive cemetery with roughly 425 graves. Now, like any good archaeologists do, they dug up the graves and were shocked to find that a bunch of the skeletons were missing their heads, sort of missing. The skulls had been carefully placed down between their legs or feet. Researchers have seen this at a few other Roman sites in Britain, but nobody really knows for sure why they did it. Imagine digging a hole in the ground and finding 5 different eras of human history stacked on top of each other, kind of like a layer cake. That happened in 2024 when road crews started prepping land for a highway near Lupaca, a small town just outside Prague. When archaeologists began checking the soil along the planned road route, they found a lot more than one building. They found a giant timeline of human life stretching back 7,000 years. The very bottom layer had leftovers from a Stone Age community. The team actually tracked down their old homes by finding long lines of dark post holes in the dirt where wooden support beams had rotted away long ago. But by connecting those dots, they were able to draw out the exact shape of massive wooden longhouses. Higher up in the soil, they realized that different groups of people kept coming back to live on this exact same patch of land over and over again. They dug up items left behind from the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Roman era, and the Middle Ages. The people who lived there across those thousands of years never wrote their stories down in books. The entire history was saved purely in those layers of dirt under the road. In 2022, heavy equipment operators were clearing land to build new apartment houses in northern Gaza when their digger blades slammed into solid stone. Work stopped. Archaeologists came in to see what they'd hit, and it didn't take long to realize they were looking at ancient stone tombs from the Roman period. At first, the team counted 63 graves, but as they cleared more dirt off the site, that number shot up to 135. The cemetery was about 2,000 years old, built back when this coast was a big stop for trade. Inside the graves, researchers found human bones, clay oil lamps, and old pottery. They also found 2 heavy lead coffins, which are super rare for that area. Would have belonged to someone pretty wealthy. Nothing on top of the ground hinted at an ancient graveyard was sitting down there. Construction had to be put on hold so that scientists could record the tombs before any new houses were put up. When road crews started clearing land for a new highway junction near Harish, Israel, nobody thought much of the farm fields they were digging through. But turned up under the dirt ended up being one of the biggest Bronze Age cities ever found in the region. The city is called Esur. It's about 5,000 years old, and scientists estimate that around 6,000 people lived there at its peak, and that might not sound huge by today's standards, but 5,000 years ago, that was massive. The dig revealed a fully planned city There were streets, residential neighborhoods, food storage rooms, massive public buildings. Thousands of artifacts were pulled from the dirt, and in the collection were items imported from far away. So this place clearly traded with other countries. Researchers ended up nicknaming it an ancient version of New York because of how huge it was. But for thousands of years, it sat buried under crops right next to this modern road. The highway project was the only reason it was ever found. And that's been the video. I'll catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next one.